Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the Unmuting the Ernest Cole archive. You've seen the students were really busy. All those different sites will now be up for a little bit to look at, so thank you for that. It's my great pleasure now to introduce Nomsa Mdlalose, Dr. Nomsa Mdlalose, who's a storyteller in the Writing Centre, who really introduced me to the power of storytelling to change a room, to make different authorities, and I think it's important throughout the whole university actually to find ways, different ways of telling stories. So many thanks for that. And so Nomsa will be coming, and you've seen the title of her talk and I think workshop. Lovely. And you're very lucky. For a while, Nomsa ran some courses for us on storytelling. I took some of those classes. They were fascinating. They were really good. Strange things happened in them. So we'll have Nomsa till about 1 o'clock, and then there will be some lunch in the foyer. Then in the afternoon, we have Shelley Barry film, and I hope we do have a screen, so it should be okay. And at 4:30 we have a whole dance company, which should be quite exciting, in the atrium. And then we have supper, so it's quite a full day, quite a wonderful day. Many thanks, Nomsa, for bringing us to the story.
Hi, it is still good morning, 2 minutes before good afternoon. So good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to see new faces, beautiful faces. So I thought, instead of doing, because I looked at the whole program for the next 3 days, or for the 3 days of the festival, I thought maybe instead of just doing only the performance, I need to touch on the significance of storytelling. Why storytelling matters. Why we should be serious about storytelling. When I'm saying storytelling, I know there's different ways of people describe or define storytelling. We have digital storytelling. We have marketers as storytellers. We have some journalists, they call themselves storytelling. But here I'm talking specifically about oral storytelling, about traditional storytelling, traditional way of passing on information, and a traditional way of educating, entertaining, and grounding that spirituality in your well-being as a human being. So that's what I'm all about. So it might sound, the paper might sound very tedious and very weighty. Can you use this? So the theme of the festival is unmute conversation. So we are muting conversation. In this case, I am unmuting the voice of storytelling. So my title is The Storyteller as Architect, meaning we're building. Storytelling as research, pedagogy, and possibilities. There's a lot of possibilities in storytelling. You can do storytelling today, and tomorrow you become a lawyer. You become a great doctor. You become a content creator. Maybe, yeah, because it's positioned in the arts. You might become an artist, but you don't have to be. You can become anything you can become a psychotherapist using stories. So that's why we have to unmute the voice of storytelling. So I am going to say that this paper explores, or this presentation explores storytelling as rigorous, joyful, and culturally grounded methodology for research and pedagogy. Drawing from African oral tradition and the story of the rich man and his 7 white cows, I argue that storytelling offers a framework for knowledge production that is ethical, embodied, and emotionally resonant. Through narrative, researchers can uncover hidden truths, engage communities, and build futures rooted in cultural memory and imagination. So, let's look at the story of the white man with his 7, rich man with, not white man, sorry, with his 7 white cows. The story happened a long time ago, in a certain village, in a certain place. And we also told that story happened at that time, and it never happened again. You see, in this village, anyone who had a white cow was considered to be very rich. But this man did not have one white cow. He had 7 white cows, and people said, oh, he's the favorite of the gods. 7 white cows, all to himself. And because he also lived alone, no one else. So every morning, the rich man came out, walked out, and greeted his cows. He called his cows with names, but it was only one name. They were all called, oh, Buhle, oh, my Buhle, the beautiful ones. There was Buhle 1, there was Buhle 2, there was Buhle 3, up to Buhle 7. But then, so every day, the man looked at the cows and greeted them, oh, my beautiful ladies, which means they were all ladies. Anyway, they produced milk. They were all beautiful ladies, and the man would take a bucket and start milking the beautiful Buhle 1 and the beautiful Buhle 2, and the one bucket was full, and the beautiful Buhle 3, and Buhle 7. There was lots of milk. Yes, of course. The white man, I'm used to white men. The rich man. Are there rich men in here? Okay, they are, but don't show me. In case I think, not the Mdlalose consumer. So, and then put the milk there. Every morning, the rich man did the same thing. But one morning, the rich man went to the kraal, greeted his 7 white girls, and started milking the cows. The first one, there's no milk, it's dry. How? Buhle 1, oh, my pretty girl, what's wrong? Didn't you eat enough yesterday? Okay, don't worry, I will sort that thing out for you. And Buhle 2, you too, what were you guys doing when others were eating? He moved on to Buhle 3, same thing, 4, 5, 6, 7, same thing. He started wondering, there's a problem here. It cannot be. Okay, maybe the grass that I'm giving them is no longer that rich, because the rich man has, fed his cows in the top range type of grass. So next day he moved the cows to that part of the grass. They ate the whole day. They went to sleep the whole night, and in the morning the rich man came out, started milking them. Again, same thing happened. Now, really, there is a problem here. Even today, I was there when you were eating. Where is the milk? So, he came up with a plan. Now, an investigation has to happen. He decided to stay up the whole night. Looked at what they do during the night that make them not to have milk in the morning. He stayed there the whole night. He was drowsy. He was sleeping. And suddenly, when in the middle of the night, he saw something. He saw a long step ladder coming from nowhere down to earth, down to the middle of the crawl, and there he saw 7 women, all wearing white, all having buckets. What is happening? But he was so sleepy, he was very sleepy that he drowsed and he was sleep. In fact, he thought he was drowning, he was dreaming. Until all of them were milking, each one of them were milking each cow. But he was shocked that he didn't move until they all went up again, running away or walking back to where they came from. And the rich man said, no, I cannot let this go away. And stood up and ran and chased them and caught the last one, the last maiden. These were maidens. And said, you are stealing my milk. And why is that? Oh, I'm sorry, rich man. I am the daughter of the sky god. I am the maiden. I come from my father's house. My father has run out of milk, and he taught us to come and milk your cows. And the rich man said, yeah, for that reason, you're not going back to your father, the sky god. You're going to marry me. You're going to become my wife. You're going to be my wife as today. Okay, that's fine, mister. That's fine, I'll do that. But if you only can allow me to go back to my father and the sky god and tell him that I'm coming back to marry you. And the rich man said, all right, that's fine. If you do that, if you come back, you understand. Yeah, I know that. One day, your milk is opera, Papa is going to run out, and you're going to come back, and I'm going to catch you, and I'm going to do something about you. And she said, when I come back, I will bring a basket. And this basket will be closed. I don't want you to look inside the basket until I tell you to. Do you promise? And the maiden and the rich man said, yeah, that's easy, I can do that. Well, the next day, the next night, the maiden came back. Of course, she came back with a bucket, with a basket. It was sealed, it had a lid, and it was closed. They took the basket, they put it in a safe place where the man could access it, but was not allowed to open and see what was inside. She said, when time is right, I will show you what is inside the basket. So days went by, months went by, and maybe even years went by. But the rich man thought, I'm going to wait until when? Remember, this is my house, and this is my wife, and everything in this house is mine, and everything I have access to. So, for that reason, I have a right to see what is in that basket. While the maiden was away doing some of her chores, the man went to the basket, opened the basket, looked inside. Did he laugh? He was laughing. What's wrong with women? Why women are so simple? This is the basket. It's empty. There's nothing. What is it? Is it hidden inside here? There's nothing. Oh, he laughed and rolled himself on the ground, and the tears were running on his cheeks. It was during the time that the wife came back. She looked at the husband, at the rich man, and said, you looked into the basket. Oh, wife! My beautiful wife! Why are you keeping this basket a secret? Because there's nothing in there. You should have told me that you had nothing. I would have given you everything. I said, no, my husband. There's a lot in that basket that you don't see, that I was going to show you when it was time for me to show you. But for that reason, that you broke your promise, I am leaving. That was the only time that the rich man took the wife seriously. No, you're leaving because I opened the basket, you promised not to look. Yeah, but there's nothing. You still don't get it. And the wife left. I'm going back to my father. The sky god climbed up the ladder and disappeared. It is said that, the story says that, the rich man was sad, but after that, he found a wife in the village. He got married. He had children. He lived like anybody else. And on that day, because now the wedding was the village wedding, in the village there's always song, and they were singing, oh, Gazebona la Pekaya, yo 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 yo, Gazebona la Pekaya, Gazebona la Pekaya, yo. Bible. Let's sing, it's a wedding, and it. Gazebona la Pekaya, yo 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 yo, Gazebona la Pekaya, Gazebona la Pekaya, yo yo yo, Gazebona la Pekaya, Gazebona la Pekaya, yo yo yo, Gazebona la Pekaya, la Pekaya, la Pekaya, yo. One more time. I want to hear voices. Oh, beautiful. La pekaya, yo, 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 la pekaya. And they got married, they had children, and it was nice. And that is the end of the story. Like I said in the beginning, that happened once. It never happened again. But there's something that those people learned. Now, what am I saying about this story? I'm saying, according to the story, the rich man's abundance is mysteriously drained. His investigation led to a revelation, the milk being taken by maidens, daughters of the sky god. He marries one, but breaks a promise. He loves, she leaves. But he is transformed. We see that by him getting married, by living the normal life like anybody else in the village, in the community. So this story is not just entertainment. It is method. It holds a phenomenon. As in the case of the milk disappearing, it's a hypothesis. Someone is stealing here. It's an investigation as the rich man stay up late to watch, to guard his 7 cows, white cows. Hey, there's a revolution here. The maidens. Oh, you are the one who's causing me this trouble. There's a consequences. There's 2 consequences here. The maiden is taking the milk, and the other one is forced to marry the rich man to pay back the milk that they stole with assistance. But there's another promise that is broken. The man opened the basket after having promised that he was not going to open until he was told to. There is a reflection. When the man, which means the man started, maybe the transformation started when the maiden said, I am leaving because you broke your promise. That's when the man stood stopped laughing and said, seriously? So they started reflecting that what I did is actually more serious than I anticipated or thought. So I'm saying the story models inquiry, consequences, and change, all within a narrative arc. Storytelling as a research methodology. Please let me know if I'm 10 minutes. Storytelling as a research methodology. Storytelling, specifically African tradition, in African tradition, storytelling is epistemological. It is epistemological. It encodes a way of knowing through metaphor, rhythm, ancestral memory, etc. Storytelling in African tradition is ethical. It teaches through consequences, not punishment, but guiding listeners towards moral reflection. Storytelling in African tradition is participatory. There are stories, there are different types of storytelling method or deliveries. Some of them is call and response songs. And you are allowed as a storyteller to talk with your audience. It's unlike when you do drama, you stick to the lines, so that the one coming after you knows when to end, when to come in. But in storytelling, because when you say you are a storyteller, which means you, Tandy, Pam, and everyone, you are yourself, you are telling us what happened. You're not a character, but you bring in all those characters in the story that will help you enhance the delivery. So that's what it means when it says it's participatory. It invites listeners into co-creating. We're co-creating the story together, and that is why the stories move, or story moves. We have various variations of one story all over Africa, maybe even in the diaspora, because stories are co-created. They move. They don't stay in one place. The meaning is shaped by the community, and so meaning that the meaning in the story is communal. It's temporal. African stories in African tradition as temporal, meaning it collapses the linear time. It holds the space, the past, the present, and the future. What do I mean by that? Because all this happens in one breath. What do I mean about that? Storytelling in African oral tradition, the past, according to the story, the past is the memory. The performance, the present is the performance. And the future is possibility. And they all happen at the same time now. So there's no one way I start here, I forget about where I come from or whatever, and no, you still come back, because the past models your future. And what you do in the present depends what the results will be in the future. Or what you experience in the present depends what were your actions in the past. So we learn through those stories. So using storytelling as research means structuring inquiry through narrative arc, surfacing lived experiences through metaphor, honoring emotional truth alongside empirical data. What do I mean by emotional truth? Here I refer to insights that may not be measurable, but are deeply felt and culturally valid. For example, a community's grief after displacement may better be expressed through a story than a saga. a child understanding of justice may well emerge through a tale of a clever rabbit. A facilitator in any kind of situation, if you facilitate, maybe you are a lecturer, maybe you are a teacher, wherever you are, the impact may be felt in laughter, in tears, or in silence. All forms of data in storytelling research. So we need, I'm saying that's how storytelling can contribute or contributes to research. If I may talk a little bit about what I do, maybe for 1 minute, this will apply to pedagogical application on storytelling. I'm creating a storytelling course or storytelling studies online. And these stories, the courses are in the storytelling format. So which means a scaffold curriculum for independent writers, for independent learners, so that the learner can learn alone through a story. I don't want to explain how the story affects the mind that make the story effective and powerful. Because it all has to do with your inner being, how the voice in the story you hear affect your being. And the neuroscientists will explain it better, that there are neurons that are traveling with the sound of your voice. When they enter your body, they tend to affect you this way. That's why when you hear a nice song, it didn't come inside. Oh, well, maybe you didn't see it coming inside, but suddenly you feel, or when you pray, you didn't see the prayer coming inside your body, but suddenly you feel better. Then that's how stories work. You might think it's something that's outside yourself, but it's actually inside yourself. Designing models that teach through rhythm, character, and plot. Modeling ethical reasoning and consequence through narrative. That's the courses that I've created. So storytelling allows participants to see themselves in the research, engage emotionally and imaginatively, retain knowledge through narrative memory. The basket as archive. The basket in the story as archive, ethics of revelation. In the story, the basket becomes a metaphor for knowledge withheld, because the maiden hid the knowledge. So the knowledge was withheld, not out of secrecy, but out of timing and trust. The rich man's laughter represents a dismissal of mystery, a common flaw in extractive research. What do I mean by extractive research? Extractive research refers to practices that exploit knowledge from communities without reciprocity or benefit. The wife's dispatcher teaches us that not wife the maiden in the story, it teaches us that not all knowledge is visible. Some truth require patience and reverence. The researcher must be humble before the unknown. Now, I want to differentiate between spectacle and reverence. The meaning of the word spectacle in this context is going to manifest here soon. Storytelling resists spectacle. It says, some truths are sacred. Some knowledge is rational, not extractable. The researcher must be humble, not dominant. In research, if a scholar uses a community story to impress others. Now I'm trying to explain the word, the context of the word spectacle. In storytelling, in research, if the scholar uses a community story to impress others, that's spectacle. If rituals, dreams, and emotions are studied without understanding, that's spectacle. If stories are collected, not returned, that's spectacle. In the story of the white man and his white 7 cows, the rich man laughed when he saw the basket's mystery. It was empty, but it was mysterious to him that really, why do you hide emptiness? He breaks the promise. He treats the sacred as a joke. And the maiden left. That's the warning. Don't laugh at mystery. Don't rush to reveal it. Don't use it without reverence. Some knowledge is not for display. It is for deep listening only. In storytelling research, we must protect mystery. We must ask, am I honoring this story? Am I using it to look, or am using it to look better, or to look famous? So this presentation is actually not about storytelling as format, but it is about storytelling as philosophy in academia. It's philosophy. It distinguishes between research as product, meaning a paper that sits in the journal or in the journal. It distinguishes research as a product from research as relationship, which means a story that lives in people, in classroom, in communities. Storytelling ensures that research, our research that we do every day in academia or in university, storytelling ensures that that research breathes, it moves, it transforms. It is not enough to write about people. We must write with them, for them, and to them, in a way that they feel, in a way that they remember, and in a way that they use the information that we have developed for them. What storytelling offers in academia is one, accessibility. Let's stop writing for each other. Let's write for the people whose life we study. Storytelling offers in academia emotional resonance. Let's honor the heart as much as the head. It offers cultural legitimacy. Let's elevate indigenous ways of knowing. It offers reciprocity and return. Let's return knowledge to the people in the form that they can use. Well, I did my PhD here at Wits. I used to sit there for 5 years in that office. I came up with a dissertation, with a thesis. Tell you what, it's sitting somewhere down here. So I'm saying that even storytelling research can be archived and forgotten, like my own PhD thesis, which I don't think anyone has ever read. But my contribution in this is this. I am showing how to design storytelling research that refuses to be forgotten. I am modeling how to make it live in the classroom, in outreach, in festivals, in podcasts, in children's books. What will stop us from writing our research for children so that we empower them for later life abilities, the abilities that they will need in their later stages of life? I spoke to the professor earlier on. She was saying, we're discussing digital storytelling and storytelling. Yes, podcast, stories in podcast. Storytelling is not just method. It is movement, pedagogy, and public knowledge. That's why I said in the beginning, one story, there's different type of one story all over the world, because the story it refuses to be static. Storytelling is not just how we write, it is how we return. It is how we make research live or live between beyond the university. Because if our stories don't reach the people, then what then are we really doing? What the aim of all this beautiful research in the archives? The Richmond's true transformation happens. He did not lose wealth. The story doesn't tell us that he lost his wealth. His 7 cows, his beautiful land remain intact. But he lost something. What do you think he lost? The maiden left. Fine. He didn't have a wife anyway. He's used to living alone. But he lost something. So what I think he lost laughter. He lost joy. He lost mystery. He lost divine connection, because as a sky god, as a sky god's daughter, which means she was sacred, she was spiritual. That's what she brought to the man's life. And that's what he might have lost as well. He also lost the promise, because the promise was gone. The promise that he promised, he lost. And how bad it is to lose a promise. He lost trust, because the maiden left with a trust, with a trust. He lost, and I said this before, he lost sacred bond. He lost the otherness, meaning the partner. Maybe that's what he learned, maybe. He lost the otherness, enchantment, and elevation. Why did he marry again? So why do you think he married again? This was a proud man. He was very, very arrogant. He was everything was all about himself and his wealth. Why do you think he married, worst of all, married just an ordinary person in the community? What do you think the reason would have been?
Thought he could replace what he lost.
He thought he could replace what he lost, maybe? Controlling? Oh, yeah, no, he tasted the act of controlling, because he even said, this is my house, I'm going to open this. So there was some form of controlling there. So he missed that, yes.
I think the loss of the maiden made him realize that there's more to life than just his wealth. Can you say that?
Okay.
Because you mentioned like the board, maybe he was looking for that board in another person.
Okay. Academics. Clever people. Okay. I don't know. So this is what is good about a story, because the interpretation is communal. It's individual. It's not static. It's not one interpretation. So all the answers are correct. Why did he marry again? So he experienced a shift from isolation to connection. One of you said that. A recognition of value of family, and also mentioned in different ways. A quiet redemption, choosing shared life over solitary wealth. So which means, like you're saying, maybe the maiden came to transform him, to teach him a lesson. Here we're talking of storytelling as a moral epistemology and relational ontology. Ontology is the philosophical study of being, of the well-being, the fundamental of existence, and storytelling offers that. Storytelling proves itself as method, as encodes hypothesis testing, ethical dilemmas, causal reasoning, transformative outcomes. It reveals emotional truth, and we talked about it earlier, cultural logic, researcher transformation, ethical engagement. Okay, I'm about to finish. Conclusion. To appear, go back to the story. To appear and disappear is a fact of life. The maiden appeared but disappeared in the end. The story ends with a profound truth that ephemeral presence is part of knowledge. Shifting ways is part of knowledge. The maiden's departure is not a loss, it is transformation. The rich man is initially arrogant, claiming it was his house, his wife, and cannot be told by a wife. He thought he understood everything, but not actually, not really. Then he decides to forget the promise, continues of the story, but the moment he peeps in the basket, he laughs, and his laughter is not joy. It is arrogance. He treats mystery as a spectacle, not as sacred. And in that breath of trust, the maiden lives, keep on saying that. This is not just a narrative twist, it is a warning that, let me bring it back to storytelling, that he dismisses the promise as nothing. I see that because storytelling itself as an entity has suffered great consequences when treated as spectacle. Though its power is acknowledged in speeches and policies, storytelling remains largely absent in academic curricula. In South Africa, there is no dedicated storytelling course in school, in college, in university, or in schools, colleges, universities. There is no storytelling course that is primarily aimed for storytelling. This absence reflects a deep and deeper dismissal of indigenous epistemologies, emotional truth, and rational knowledge. I'm not sure if I'm closing for the 5th time now, but in my closing argument, why storytelling is not optional in research. The story of the rich man with 7 white cows is not just a tale, it is a thesis. It proves beyond reasonable doubt that storytelling is not a supplement to research, it is a method of knowing. It teaches through emotion, relationship, and transformation. It preserves cultural logic. It transforms the researcher and the listener. It demands ethical engagement. We see some stories, children's stories, that happily ever after, because you need to be ethical. It teaches moral and values. So, when we ask, can storytelling be research? The story answers, it already is. And when we ask, why must we include it in the academy? The story answers, because without it we risk knowing everything except what matters most. Let us honor storytelling not as an anecdote, but as method. Not as soft, but as rigorous. Not as past, but as future. Because in the end, the richest research is not what we extract from the world, but what we learn when we listen to it speak. Yeah, I was correct. That was my ending. That was my conclusion. Thank you. So I read works of people or scholars like Kuweke, the African oral tradition paradigm of storytelling as methodological framework, employment experiences for African communities in New Zealand, as well as Osei Dudu, 2022, developing African oral tradition storytelling as a framework for studying African people's quality of life. So that's my some of my references there. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any question or if you have any comment, please. Okay, we have 15 minutes to go. Yes.
My name is Brian. Can you elaborate more when you talked about the courses which you are developing in online? You talk about developing something online, storytelling.
Yeah. So the story, I call it Zinzomi Storytelling College, online storytelling college. It's for everybody. For everybody, absolutely for everybody. We have basics, fundamentals of storytelling. We have, why I developed the courses, I realized that storytelling is being viewed as something only for entertainment. And even some professional storytellers, they cannot go beyond being performers or running workshops. But because they haven't grasped the impact of storytelling as an entity, as a phenomenon. So I developed a course to show them that you can use storytelling in education. This is how it's done. You can use storytelling to improve your business, and this is how it's done. You can use storytelling in healing situations. And this is how storytelling contributes to healing, and this is how storytelling contributes to conflict resolution. We have cases where soldiers used stories of Nogwaja to sort of boost the morale and encourage bravery in soldiers. So storytelling, today I'm talking about storytelling in academia. Storytelling infiltrates every field. It's multidisciplinary. So we have it's new to me because I've never seen it done as a study. I've seen it as an example. Our freedom fighters. We got independence in 1994. We still live with those people. The history of the freedom, of the struggle, to us as we live now in this time, in this juncture, is first experience. We're not reading about the struggle from books. This is not after 100 years. We are the first generations, because we're different generations, first generations that get the stories from the horse's mouths. And I'm taking those stories and interviewing the freedom fighters. Yeah, they're messing up big time now, but they did something. There's something right that they did in the past. So I'm looking at not necessarily how many people they killed, or if they feel bad, or yeah, of course they feel bad. My husband was incarcerated in Robben Island for 8 years. Yes, it feels bad. can't even look, watch a video about that part of his life. So, of course they feel bad, we know about that. But I decided to look at the leadership. If the leadership was that great and able to take them to this far, why are we failing now? And I'm looking at the strategies, leadership, and personalities. So that is, it comes as a course. So it's online, it's not the application. I'm not accepting the application now. The app is we're uploading the courses right now. Maybe by end of November or December we will be done and we will ask people to apply. Very reasonable. There's basics of storytelling as a business, storytelling as, like I was mentioning. Remember guys, I'm a storyteller, I don't stop talking, you must stop me. Okay.
Sorry to say, I must repeat the question for the sake of recording.
Oh.
Like I said, my name is Brian Mazubu. I said I was asking you to elaborate further about the courses, what you have done. So.
Okay, yes, these courses are online on the Zinzomi app. This is the name of the organization, of the company.
Thank you, Dr. Mdlalose. I think it's generally a comment, but I'll start with a plea to say to you, as a storyteller, when you are engaging with an audience, I would have loved for you to first give a historical background on who is the storyteller and where is the positionality of time in terms of storytelling, because I speak as probably one of the last generations to have a grandmother telling a story, singing without watching television or listening to radio. So those that were born probably after 1994, not all of them, were that fortunate, because post 1994, we had grandmothers who were still in the civil service, so they didn't have time to tell stories. There was television. There was, which later led to our children now being, forced to watch Coco Melon and so on. So storytelling in this regard requires a foundation whereby you inform the audience that I come from a position of, our lineages are part of storytelling. Our origin, our origin as people, our migration, our, engagement with the canonical space of writing and storytelling and historical narrative, epistemologies and so on are embedded in storytelling. I think if you look at the first to the fourth generation of vernacular writers, you'll find a section called Uncwadi Lemveli, whether you're reading Xhosa or Zulu and so on, which actually positions the student into understanding where storytelling comes from. And secondly, the fact that Dr. Mdlalose, you are presenting storytelling from a vernacular perspective, which is not parallel to your European and Asian form of storytelling. So you are giving back to Africans the essence that was interrupted by colonialism. And along that, you are also including, this more what do you call it, the missionary education that inform those first, second, and third, up to probably sixth generation writers to rewrite and reconstruct as well as reimagine their past through orality as part of their courses. You see, so I need not tell you about the pamphleting era, the newspaper era, the first novels that were written, in the 1900s and so on, up to where we are today. So I would be very much interested into having a podcast conversation about when 1994 came. It sort of became a stopping point. Like this was the last train stop, and we were now told to hop off the train and jump on cars, and cars were telling us something else. which was not as very, very rich and foundational as storytelling. You see. So for me, as you were telling the story, though I was partly, not upset, but I was partly, perturbed by the fact that you are telling an African story in English, and unfortunately the audience requires you to. But for me, I would have loved to listen to that story in isiZulu. I would have loved to listen to it in isiXhosa as Insomi, because there's a very big difference between a folktale and Insomi. You see, so that's part, I think, of your journey as a storyteller, as an academic, that perhaps you can reintroduce that, because we learned a lot from Insomi, and our grandmothers actually embodying, imagine your grandmother embodying an ogre, Izim, and how frightened you were as a child. So these are things now that we need to impart to our children, but unfortunately we have this gap that has been taken over by technology, by television, by all kinds of things, TikTok, and so on. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you for those. I think I remember 2 questions. You can remind me of the third one if there is. But yeah, true. I could have started by introducing the history of storytelling, which I didn't think, because you also have limited time, right? You want to think that that's general knowledge. Even if you didn't grow up in the rural areas, even if you didn't grow up with a grandmother or grandparents, you would know what storytelling is, except that I'm calling it in English. Because if I say izinganekwane, then the Xhosa person is going to ask, what is izinganekwane? Or the vendor person is going to ask, what is England? Okay, we're still right now very confused with the word storytelling, which started in the 6th century by the researcher in Germany, but in Europe, who collected stories for fables. And when he put those stories into books, into writing, he put them in the story, collected histories of the community, but put that history as a form of fables and stories, and said, this is storytelling. And that's how the word storytelling, which actually doesn't explain exactly what izinganekwane is. For example, izinganekwane can mean in the beginning of time. We're telling the stories about the beginning of time. So I could have started there, but who will benefit? Unless if I'm doing a course. So I'm saying here, storytelling needs to be in the academia. That's my main point. You need to introduce storytelling. It should be in the academic curriculum. Then we can unpack other things. Sure, storytelling. If I had time, I would tell you a story in isiZulu. So how much time? 5 minutes. If there is no question, I'll show a short story in isiZulu.
Oh.
But because if I tell the story, I won't tell it in isiXhosa or isiSpedi or isiZulu. And definitely, if you speak a language, one of the people, one in the audience will complain because the person did not hear. Unfortunately, we've made it so because some of us, we don't speak our languages. What must we do? You must first learn other languages so that when I talk in my language, you understand. Otherwise, I don't have a choice. I speak in the language that I think everyone understands. So that's what. But in terms of the story, because when I tell a story, I want you to hear what I'm saying. Okay, thank you.
Oh.